music says one thing. It's time for our Tuesday, Thursday chat with St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist and local gadfly. I'd say he's a gadfly.
Yeah.
Good morning, Tony Messenger.
I'll accept that. I have been called worse. That is for sure. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. Your buddy and Governor Eric Greitens doesn't have a lot of friends on either side of the aisle. It seems like the Senate is in complete disarray down there, fighting with the party's head, Eric Greitens, and there's a whole bunch of questions on both sides of the aisle if anything's going to get done between now and the end of the session, which is Friday.
Well, the good thing for voters and taxpayers is that more often than not, nothing getting done in the legislature is better than bad things getting done. For instance, last night, the House passed Senate Bill 43, which is actually going to make it much easier to discriminate in this state. We would be better off if that thing had been blocked and had not made its way through the legislative process. Hopefully it'll end up getting tossed in court, as many of these rush items do. So, nothing happening isn't necessarily the worst thing. And what it does is it resets the political spectrum here, because the governor ran against his own party. He ran as an outsider who called the Republicans who run the legislature corrupt. And they pushed back, and some of them pushed back really hard, and then the governor got himself in trouble, got his own ethics violation, which he consented to in a consent report with the Missouri Ethics Commission that says that he violated or likely violated state law by somehow using the nonprofit donor list from his former nonprofit, The Mission Continues, without reporting it. There's still a whole lot of questions over what happened there. The governor isn't answering any questions, which is his way. So here we have a guy who ran on ethics, who's now being called out by members of his own party for a variety of things that he's doing that they find unethical. And that sort of resets the political spectrum, because it will be interesting to see how voters react to that. I believe voters care about ethics when it's presented to them in a way that they understand, such as when we voted last year to bring campaign finance limits back into the state. That's now in question because of a legal case as well. But voters care about this stuff. And Eric Greitens knew that. That's why he ran his campaign the way he did. And now as governor, he's the first sitting governor in my lifetime that all of a sudden has violated ethics law himself in a consent decree. So things are a bit of a mess in the legislature, but as I tweeted yesterday, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Stopping an overzealous supermajority from getting everything they want is good for taxpayers.
It is interesting that clearly the Republican Party is at war with itself. And we're seeing that play out in Jefferson City. They own everything. They have a veto-proof majority. They finally got the governor from their own party, and they passed more with the Democratic governor than they did with their own governor.
Yeah, what happens when you get supermajorities, and this happened years ago in Missouri with the Democrats, and now it's happened with the Republicans, is you get in this mode where instead of trying to pass the best legislation, you're trying to pass politically pure legislation that creates a bad vote for the other party. And so you start to have this 100% litmus test. Every Republican has to vote for it, and every Democrat has to vote against it. Well, when you do that, you can't actually pass reasonable legislation in which people on both sides of the political spectrum come together for a compromise to do something good for the state. And so the only place for Republicans to go at that point is to fight among themselves, because a lot of the moderate Republicans, a lot of Republicans who are actually very conservative but not tied to what the Republican Party has become in the age of Trump, are saying, no, we're going to stand against some of these things. And so what will happen, I think, is you'll see a little bit of a pendulum swing, not a huge one, but over the next 2 or 3 election cycles, you'll see a little bit of a pendulum swing. The best thing that can happen for this state is for the Republican majority to just get small enough to where they need a few Democratic votes to make good things happen. That's when good legislation happens, whether it's a Republican majority or a Democratic majority when the system is set up so that they have to work together and not just try to pass 100% Republican legislation or 100% Democratic legislation, that's when better things happen for taxpayers.
Tony Messenger, did Eric Greitens, Missouri's governor, use the organization that he started, The Mission Continues? Did he use their mailing list to raise money for his campaign?
Yes, that's what the ethics consent decree says. What it says is he violated or likely violated. He hasn't been charged in court, but he signed a decree that agrees that probable cause exists to show that he likely violated campaign finance law by not reporting that list as a donation. So they filed an amendment to their campaign finance report that shows that donor list as a $600 donation. I think it's probably worth a heck of a lot more than that, but whatever. So they admit now that they have that donor list and that it was used in the campaign in some capacity. Yet he denied to the Associated Press during the campaign using that list. Now there's a contradiction, and people are asking him questions to come clean about what happened, and he has not done so far. Those questions are not going to go away. He has this list from his former nonprofit. The paperwork says his campaign has it. The evidence shows that he used it. The Mission Continues still says we didn't authorize them having that list. So at some point, the Eric Greitens campaign is going to have to come clean and say, yes, we stole it, an employee stole it, somebody gave it to us, we had a misunderstanding, whatever. But yes, that's the donor list we used to start our campaign for governor.
And this is a man who ran on ethics reform and running against the tawdry nature of Jefferson City.
Absolutely. He's learning that he's not an outsider anymore.
Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, Tuesdays and Thursdays with us here on the radio and all the time at stltoday.com. Tony, thanks for checking in.
Have a great day.
826, Big